What's going on, everybody? B Scott here with
GOD.
And on today's show, we're going over the wide receiver position. Draft week, it's upon us. We got to get through these wide receivers. There's a lot to go through, because wide receivers are so stacked at the top, and even in the middle rounds, you can get some good ones. So we got some upside players, some downside players, and guys we're staying away from, guys we love. So keep it locked and loaded right here at the first four downs.
Yep. Drop the logo.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the first four downs. Obviously, it's draft week. It's time to get your draft done.
It's draft day.
Absolutely. So we're looking at wide receivers today, upside, and players that we want to target and players we want to avoid, essentially. So before we get into today's content, don't forget, like the video, subscribe, hit the thumb at the bell, all that good stuff. And we're going to be here all season.
Yeah.
For your fantasy football needs. Absolutely. So without further ado, it's the wide receiver position. Number one overall, it's Michael Thomas, plain and simple. First round pick, should be easily 185 targets last year, 149 receptions, broke the record. And yes, a lot of people say, oh, well, Michael Thomas is going to decline. Yeah, it's hard to say he's not going to decline. 149 receptions, They had Emmanuel Sanders. Now, he's still going to be arguably the one or two wide receiver at the end of the season, in my opinion, barring injury. So that's why he's the number one. Surefire.
Yeah, I believe that too. He took a big step last year and became one of the not only the number one wide receiver last year, one of the most efficient wide receiver of all time. So kudos to him. That's why we got him number one. You got to think about the accuracy with Drew Brees and everything like that. You're wondering what's going on with Alvin Kamara. Is he healthy? Is he not? I think either way it goes, it bodes well for Michael Thomas. Period. So grabbing him there, you're like surefire projected 250 to 300 points. He averaged 18.8 fantasy points per game last year, and that's why he's at number one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Davante Adams, number two spot. And this is a huge upside at the touchdown position. Obviously, Davante Adams can score some touchdowns, 10 plus, arguably when he's on the field and healthy. Last season, you saw, had the turf toe, missed 5 or 6 games, still finished almost 1,000 yards, only 5 touchdowns. And Aaron Jones' numbers you saw were huge in that aspect, especially in the time where he missed. So, Davante Adams, coming off the injury, easily the number 2 receiver, and has upside to be the number 1 receiver overall.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just to note the Aaron Jones thing that you said, Aaron Jones in the season before that, when he had time playing, his production was pretty big as well.
Oh,
when Davante Adams was on the field.
I'm taking nothing away from Aaron Jones.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I think Aaron Jones is really the truth. But going back to Davante Adams, his separation is bar none different from every other guy in the National Football League right now. Once he hits that second gear, you can't get with him. That's why his multiple touchdown threat is pretty much a consistent thing that you can expect every single year. I like him in his offense. There's not an established wide receiver 2 on this team. They like Allen Lazard a lot. But I feel like also you look at Aaron Rodgers and, redemption. He has to come back blazing. You know what I'm saying? Especially with them thinking that he's like past his prime and old or whatever. They draft a quarterback in the first round. So I think there's going to be a lot of targets to Davante Adams. And, yeah, number 2 receiver. I actually have Julio Jones ranked number 2. But, you can't go wrong with Davante Adams.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you already mentioned, Julio Jones. He's going to round out the first tier of wide receivers. The top 3, essentially, bar none. Don't get me wrong. I leave Tyreek Hill out there because the consistency, you know what I mean? Big playability, absolutely. But based on the consistent numbers of these top 3 receivers, that's why they are who they are. Yeah. Julio Jones, number 3.
Yeah.
And this season should be no different from the last 5-6 seasons. And his touchdowns could even go up with Todd Gurley in the offense, obviously. So, Julio Jones is surefire, number 3 receiver, going off in the second round. And, if you're late in your drafts, don't be scared to take 2 top receivers. A lot of people are. They're scared to take that 2 receiver jump and think that they're missing out on a lot of running backs. When you think, even in a 12-man league, if 10 running backs already come off the board, you could have 2 of the top 3 to 5 receivers in the league on your team and still end up with a top 10 to 15 back on the backside.
Yeah.
So Julio Jones, huge value.
Yeah, period. I mean, what more can you say about it? You know what I'm saying? If you want that bag, go get Julio Jones. He is what he is. only guy that you know that's going to go in there and get you 20 points without a touchdown. Go get Julio Jones, period.
Yeah, of course. So that rounds out the first tier. Move to Tyreek Hill. This is a guy that is being drafted ahead of Julio Jones in most leagues. And don't get me wrong, the upside is there. He's a player that could be the wide receiver one on the season. He's that explosive of a player.
Yeah.
But coming into the season, hampered by a hamstring. You saw last season he missed some games, collarbone, just different little injuries that cost him some playing time. And you saw that in the dip of numbers. So Tyreek Hill, there's a little risk there. You know, like you said with Davante Adams, you know, there's a little bit of injury risk there. So that's why don't get me wrong, I still would take Tyreek Hill. There's no way around it, but the risk is why he's put at the 4th spot.
Yeah, he's a speed receiver, so the hamstring, the soft tissue thing, that's a big thing for those kind of receivers. Other than that, you get a surefire guy. You know what I'm saying? Not only does he help you in the fantasy world, what he does on his team is opens up everybody else, which opens up Tyreek Hill. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't guard everybody. You know what I mean?
You can't guard Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, he's just like this matrix of a player that's on this field that just does so many things for that offense. You can argue that Patrick Mahomes wouldn't even be Patrick Mahomes without Tyreek Hill. That's how good this receiver is. Go get him in your 1st or 2nd round.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about it, he's a guy that put up a 40 spot.
Yep.
Very few receivers can.
Yeah.
And he's one of them.
Yeah.
So we can move to the number 5. This is a little tight spot. A lot of people got DeAndre Hopkins here. I would argue that Chris Godwin deserves this right, especially at the 5 spot. Bring in Tom Brady, a more accurate quarterback. You saw what Godwin did last year, made that huge leap that everybody expected. Now, his numbers should be very similar in a similar style of offense with a more accurate quarterback that's not going to throw that many interceptions.
Yeah, you look at what he did last year. We all seen it coming. You know what I'm saying? And he lived up to that bill. You added Tom Brady to that offense. Tom Brady has been great at producing slot receivers. You look at Wes Welker, even Danny Amendola and Julian Edelman at that much. You know, they're not great athletes like he is a great athlete. You can argue that he's a better athlete than all 3 of those slot receivers. So, you know, in that offense where you seen James Winston aired it out, and he finished as like I believe the number
3
or 4 receiver last year.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think nothing's going to stop him from being in that top 5 this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a target I want to have my hands on.
Yeah, he averaged 16 points a game last year.
Yeah, that's good.
What more do you want?
Absolutely. So, receiver after that, Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay. We still got him ahead of DeAndre Hopkins. And Galladay's got the huge touchdown upside. You saw last season, Matthew Stafford, arguably one of his best seasons before he got hurt. Yeah. You know, statistically, Kenny Golladay finished the season with 11 touchdowns with who? David Blau is his quarterback. You know what I mean? So, Galladay's huge. Got huge upside. They're working on the contract discussion to extend him out. He's that dynamic of a receiver. And just with the touchdown upside alone, led all receivers with 11 last year. He's easily the number 6 wide receiver.
Yeah. You want to kill on your team, multiple touchdown threat, on limited production, that's the guy you aim for in your draft. You're looking at this guy in the middle of the 2nd round to possibly the middle of the 3rd round, depending on how your team flows and where you're picking at. I don't necessarily see you picking him over a Godwin or a Tyreek Hill or those kind of players that's fallen in the early 2nd round. But you get a killer in this guy. You know what I'm saying? If I had a choice, I would be taking Godwin over a lot of players. I like him a lot this year. And then in the fantasy playoffs, he has I want to say they have the best strength of schedule. So, target him very often in your leagues this year.
Yeah, absolutely. 2nd, 3rd round, depending on the size of your league. Great upside player with huge touchdown potential.
Yeah.
And once again, could lead the league with touchdowns. Next player. This is where I would put DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay.
Now, DeAndre Hopkins, skill-wise, has the potential to be a top 3, top 5 receiver. Maybe even close to the top 1. But he joins a new team, a whole new offense, and you don't really know what the dynamic is and if he's going to warrant those number 1 targets on that team. Now, will he finish with the most targets? Possibly. But you saw last year Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald both split right down the middle at 107 targets. So you add Hopkins in there. What's going to happen with this mix? I don't know, and I'm not so sure. That's why I have Hopkins as low as I do.
Yeah, well, Hopkins in his career has been shown to be quarterback proof a little bit. You know what I mean? He's produced on a very high skill with multiple different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Who actually weren't really that great.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray's a better quarterback than these guys going in the second year. I really do like Hopkins. Now you can argue that he is in his decline. A decline does not mean that he sucks. It means that he may be past his prime as a player. But I think that past his prime as a player is a better fit as far as fantasy production than a lot of players that you would pick after him. You know what I mean? So, and you think about the upside there. You know, you could be exponentially having like crazy value with this guy, knowing that this is going to be the number one target for Kyler Murray in this offense. You know what I mean? So, you know, there's that factor. I like him a lot. I can't really give a projection on him, but I do like him in the sense of taking him in the third round if you wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. And where he's coming off the board, he's a big name. And some of your drafts, he's going to be going probably higher than he probably should.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not fading Hopkins altogether, but the price has to be right, especially for DeAndre Hopkins. So we can move from DeAndre Hopkins. This is where we get to a plethora of receivers. You know, there's kind of a little mix, you know, because now you get to the guys like OBJ, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson,
Robert Woods,
Juju Smith-Schuster. I do like Robert Woods, don't get me wrong.
I like all those guys.
Yeah.
But my number 8 receiver is Mike Evans. You think about Tom Brady joining this offense. You think about what he did in the offense last year before he got hurt. He was projected to be top 3 receiver in the league.
Yep.
I think with Tom Brady is going to be crazy. His connection was very often and very early with Brady in camp. You know what I'm saying? Even before they even started camp, they were having their private holdings at the high schools and everything like that. And it was him and Brady just connecting. I think they really try to get that rapport. I think Brady has been vying to have that Randy Moss kind of receiver, that downfield receiver, for a long time in New England. You know what I mean? After that, we didn't really see that. They tried to replace it with, you know, Jacoby Meyer, Philip Dorsett, those kind of players. But they, Josh Gordon, I don't think they were in their career where Mike Evans is right now in his career, still in his prime. You think about Jameis Winston just throwing the ball up in the air and Mike Evans going to get it. There was an argument that Mike Evans would just give up on routes. Yeah, if you just throwing it in the air and I can't really get to it. Now, can you imagine Mike Evans with the ball just landing straight in his hands? I think there's potential for Mike Evans to be a top 5 receiver, to be honest with you. That's why I got him at 8. I can't take him out to 10 at all. Go get this guy. I'm telling you, you're not going to be disappointed. He averaged 15.3 fantasy points per game last year and half point. So, you know, that's a factor. And you got Tom Brady now.
Yeah, he absolutely dominated down the stretch. And I'm sorry for even forgetting about Mike Evans altogether, in the essence of Mike Evans is this guy that's just above the players that I mentioned previously.
Yeah.
And absolutely on a number 2 to number 3 offense overall in a division where they're going to throw the football a lot, period. Absolutely. Mike Evans is huge. Great at the 8 spot. So now, after that, we can get to a lot of these players. And personally, I'm so torn.
Yeah, you want to take one of these blow-up guys because, I mean, they're all in this, like, mix of players that, you know, a lot of these guys are number ones on their team, and you don't know necessarily production. There's been things that's changed on the team. But you know what? I will stick to the boom, not necessarily the bust, and I'll go number 9. My number 9 wide receiver on the board is Amari Cooper. Now, we seen last year, you know, through his career, he's been 50% production. But some of that 50% production come on 50-point fantasy games. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's not a lot of wide receivers that can do that for you. That's like, that not only wins your week, it just absolutely, like, puts you in the all-time. You know what I'm saying? That's when you score your 300 points and everything like that. This kind of guy, you know, he's going to have that production on the team. And you look at CeeDee Lamb, there's not going to be a lot of times where, you know, Amari Cooper is going to be double teamed on his team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I like Coop a lot.
Yeah, you know what? I like Coop too.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I've drafted him a lot in mocks. I've taken him over even guys like Adam Thielen, you know, personally.
Because he sucks.
Okay, that's fine. But anyway, what I dislike about Cooper is, can I trust him as my wide receiver 1? Possibly. You know, well, if you took 2 or 3 running backs.
Here's the thing. If I took, let's say I go Christian McCaffrey in my first pick. My second pick would have been Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, or possibly, Aaron Jones if he fell that far down. I would be fine with Amari Cooper as my number one right there, but given Galladay and all those guys will still be right there. You know what I mean? So he's more fit right now to strategize to be your wide receiver too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. So we'll move. DJ Moore. DJ Moore's a guy that everyone's high on, but he's in a brand new offense.
Yeah.
Run first offense essentially with Christian McCaffrey, not necessarily. He's a 1,000-yard receiver. He's a guy that can have 120, 130 targets. Bridgewater, you saw in 3 games when Drew Brees missed last season, peppered Michael Thomas with targets still. So DJ Moore could still see the pure volume in that offense. And that's where I think he should finish right, or he should round out the 10 spot.
I think, you know what? 1,000-yard receiver, yeah, he is. That's a general statement. I think
guess
that,
you're right.
You know what I mean? I think, Robert Woods, you look at Gallup, Stephon Diggs, these guys are all going to be 1,000-yard receivers, but they're well within my 20s. Well, is there anything that he pulls away from these other guys? Not necessarily. Is there upside for him to hit 1,300 yards? Is there upside for him to hit 10 touchdowns or double-digit touchdowns? Not necessarily. I don't know what Bridgewater's going to do, and I think that's the biggest part. You know what I'm saying? What you can expect is a lot of volume, knowing that there's eight to nine new starters on that defense, no leadership on that team whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? Veteran leadership. They've lost them all, including the coach and the quarterback and the tight end. So we don't know what their DNA of a team is going to be. You know what I mean? So that's why I do in my rankings, I have them ranked a lot more down. Like I have them wide receiver 17, but I mean, I wouldn't be mad at you. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of tit for tat. I think he's a great talent. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to me, it sounds like a lot of negative game script, period, for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, that's what I said. The value beater.
Against a lot of tough offenses. Yeah. Obviously, 3 of arguably the top 6-7 offenses
in his division. You're going to see him twice.
Exactly. Yeah. So that tells me they're going to throw a lot of the football. So DJ Moore's got a lot of upside. Yeah. That's why I kind of have him right there at the 10. So number 11, it's a tough toss-up. There's so many receivers, especially in these middle rounds, targeting 3rd, 4th, 5th round. We're getting to points where you're either taking guys that we're hoping on production based on previous stats, a la Juju Smith-Schuster, Adam Thielen. You know what I mean? Guys like that. You
forgot his middle name.
Who?
Adam Thielen and Juju Smith-Schuster both have the same middle name. You know what? It's Sex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. I'll just leave it at that. Juju Smith-Schuster. Let's just talk about him.
Okay.
This is a guy, we already talked, high risk, high reward. He's a receiver that could finish as a top 5, top 7 receiver. He did just 2 years ago. Last year, the quarterback play, he was hurt. There's a lot of high hopes in Pittsburgh on that offense. There could be some huge upside for Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, my problem is there's already been talks in camp. He hasn't looked good. It doesn't seem like he's gelling well in the team. You know what I mean? So it's not good, especially now. They just mentioned Deontay Johnson.
Yeah,
is growing rapport with Ben Roethlisberger. That's a good sign. So Juju Smith-Schuster, I like him as a player. I think he's a decent receiver, but I worry that he's a big name player that people are going to reach too far for. And so that's kind of my thing with Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster is crazy, man. You know what? I think his bust rate is very high because his success rate is very high.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I think he's like top 2 at the success rate position. I think he's only person behind him is like J.J. Stokes. You know what I'm saying? He played for the Niners a long time ago and he sucked. You know what? This is life without Antonio Brown. You got a Hall of Famer guy who departed in that offense, and that's the last good thing that we've seen about him. And if you want to really take it there and say, we've seen DeAndre Hopkins and these top receivers produce with multiple different quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? He didn't do that. He didn't take his time to really be assertive and be the number 1 receiver. He didn't take the bull by the horns, is what I'm saying. He actually gave up on the team, in my opinion.
That's possible. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot that he has to prove. And camp is showing that he's not that guy. So, they moved him back to the slot, and that's good for him. They send Roethlisberger off his injury right now in camp. He looks good. He's throwing every pass. He looks dynamite. but there's also that thing where you don't really know what's going to happen with that injury. Are they going to put the ball in Roethlisberger's hand 40 times a game? I'm not so sure. And then we know that Roethlisberger has been crazy, notorious for being good only at home in the last couple seasons. Well, there's no crowd noise there at home, at Heinz Field. So is that a home game or is that a away game? You know what I'm saying? So is he going to be really a good product? What I do like is they've moved him back to the slot where he flourished, where Juju was at. Deontay Johnson is a good playmaker. But I think I said this, they got to make Deontay Johnson or one of these guys, Claypool, credible in this game. You know, Washington, they got to make them credible to in the over for the slot to be flourished. You know what I'm saying? For Juju to flourish. So, you know what? I'm at a fade. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's on my hate list, to be honest with you. But, you know, the upside is there. It really is.
Absolutely. We talked about him with high risk, high reward. I like him arguably as a flex kind of player, but the problem is he's going so high, third, fourth round, that it's hard for you to get him as a flex, even if I'm taking 3 wide receivers, fading running backs, 0 running back. There's too many more consistent, less risky players as your flex guy.
It's gross. I would wait a couple rounds and try to get DK Lockett. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Lockett, Sutton. You know what I mean? These are all guys going 2 rounds later. You know, 1 or 2 rounds later. So. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's not necessarily a love for us. I'm not saying fade him altogether. Just beware of where you're going to be able to draft him. So we can move to a similar player on this list that we think is ranked pretty high also, Adam Thielen, where he's shown that he can be a top 7, top 8 receiver in his career. Last season, derailed by injury. And it was a hamstring that he tried to play through, and he couldn't. He couldn't play through a hamstring injury. And they did trade Stephon Diggs in the offseason.
He's 30 years old.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really think that Adam Thielen is in his decline. Just like I said about DeAndre Hopkins, that does not mean that he's not going to be a good player. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think... you remember that dominant season he had? I don't think we're ever going to see that again. I really don't. I think the max for him will probably be somewhere around 900 yards, possibly 1,000. Maybe he hits the 1,000 mark. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he hits 84 to 90 receptions. You know what I'm saying? That's very possible. You know, the touchdown department, I don't know how many touchdowns he's going to get. You know what I'm saying? We don't know what they got in Olabisi Johnson. He showed, like, in flashes that he would be good, but Justin Jefferson, we don't know what he's going to be. We ain't seen it yet. Yes, Kirk Cousins is a very good, accurate passer. I don't like it. I really don't. You know what I'm saying? He's on my fade list. He's on my hate list. I'm not drafting. I don't want no equity in that offense outside of Dalvin Good.
Okay. That's respectable. Absolutely. There's a lot of concern, especially coming off a hamstring, soft tissue injury last year that pretty much held him out almost 8 weeks, 9 weeks. Yeah. He tried to come back and play, and he couldn't, even through it. So
those receivers, when they start getting those soft tissues,
it's pretty tough. And they tend to come back every now and then. So, you know, it's definitely a scary spot. Now we can move to some upside players. You know, these are guys that are getting drafted just outside of this. Yeah. We're going to pass up Odell Beckham a little bit.
Yeah, because I think he's solid.
He is what he is. You know, I think he's getting drafted at a decent spot. I wouldn't hate to have him on my team. Don't reach for him, but at the same token, I'm all for having Odell on the team. Of course. So some upside receivers. So now we're going to look at A.J. Brown. Huge upside. You know what I mean? This is a guy that's being drafted right behind guys like Adam Thielen, Juju Smith-Schuster, where you saw last season, rookie season, 1,000 yards receiving, 20 yards per reception. Outrageous. You know what I mean? It's like unreal dynamite player. And you saw it happen with Tannehill, who's the long-term quarterback. You saw last year in the first 6 weeks, Marcus Mariota only averaged 4 targets per game, and it turned to Tannehill 6 targets per game. So if you just gave him those numbers, he'd look at least 100 targets.
Yeah.
Last season, just on limited targets and receptions, he still finished with 1,000 yards. Yeah. Insane numbers. So give him 100 targets, 110 targets, because you don't know the wide receiver core. Corey Davis, is he healthy? Is he not?
He sucks.
Exactly. And Jonnu Smith, we like him. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. He's got huge upside at the tight end position. But you already know in the backfield, they drafted a guy to fill the second running back spot behind Derrick Henry, but where are those receptions going to go, realistically? A.J. Brown could pick up an extra 10, 20 targets.
Yeah, easily.
And he could be just the dynamics of a player he is. Could finish as a top 10 receiver.
Yeah, this is one of these guys that you know what I'm saying, you're still in the drafts. The 20 points, I mean the 20 yards per catch, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you why he was able to do that. Because they had to stack the box on Derrick Henry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And guess what? This year they're still going to have to stack the box on Derrick Henry. I think it's very sustainable. I mean, nobody's ever done it 20 yards per reception for a career. Let's say it goes down a little bit. Let's just say it goes down to 18 to 17.
Mm-hmm.
It's still monster given the fact that if it does go down a little bit, that means his targets goes up. So he's doing more production. You know what I'm saying? What I don't like about Derrick Henry's thing is that they did lose Conklin on that offensive line, but Derrick Henry's still a beast. You know what I'm saying? He's still going to get his run. He's still going to have 304 million carries this year, period. And I think that A.J. Brown is still going to be a beast. I don't care who the pass catcher is, because you know what? He was very dominant at Ole Miss, where the second receiver on that team was DK Metcalf, and he still outproduced and beast with that receiver on the team, and Darwin Knox, to be honest with you. I like A.J. Brown a lot. I like him. I'm excited about him and Tannehill's connection. I want a lot of shares of him, to be honest with you, if I can get it at the right price.
Yeah, absolutely. And talk about A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf. This is another guy in offense. Last season, 900 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. Russell Wilson is a rookie.
I got him running back 12 and 13.
Metrics are outstanding, off the charts. You know, so
I think in our camp, Third Wheel, you know what? That was the first tweet. He went all in on him, and this guy was the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was great last season, and I see nothing but upside with DK Metcalf. And if you were to get Russell Wilson and you were on the back end of drafts, 3rd, 4th, 5th round, and be able to stack that as DK in your flex, or DK even as a wide receiver too,
that's silly.
And you have 2 good running backs, and you took DK and Russell Wilson as your starting quarterback,
silly.
That's insane.
You can honestly land T and Aaron grab Carson too. To be honest with you, with that whole stack, it's like the most valuable stack in drafts right now in 10-man. 12-man is a little bit hard to pull off, but you know. That's a crazy stat. DK, I love him a lot. I got him projected, 12 to 1,300 yards this year. I think it's very possible, even with Josh Gordon being signed back to the team, even with Lockett there, even with Philip Dorsett. I think these guys are going to see sets like Jerron Brown was seeing. They love to throw to the tight end. I think that's just their period. So you don't have to worry about those targets with Greg Olsen. I love DK Metcalf. This is one of these other guys. The guys on my 15 to 16, these are the guys that I'm projecting to just really break out this year. And A.J. Brown is 12. DK Metcalf is 13. Go get him.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying on the upside players. Terry McLaurin. You've been huge on Washington all off season.
Yep.
I'm not going to say I don't see it.
I'm telling you, at the end of the season, I'm going to beat my chest because these guys are going to be fantasy monsters. They may not be NFL-wise like a winning football team, but they're going to be fantasy monsters this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know
You're going to be losing most of the time.
Maybe, yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Well, Ron Rivera's head coach. I don't know if he's ever had a losing season. So realistically, they could finish 6 and 10, or 7 and 9 and still be decent. Absolutely. But Terry McLaurin, M1. This guy's dynamic. You saw last season, 1,000 yards receiving as a rookie.
Yeah, he came in the league embarrassing pro cornerbacks.
Yeah, absolutely. So
you know what I mean?
Kind of tailed off, fizzled off, but that rapport is there.
Yeah.
With Dwayne Haskins. Through the offseason, they work together, and they're saying Haskins is looking great.
Great.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? They were on a terrible team last year. I think Jay Gruden didn't even want to draft this guy. The organization as a whole was bad. So you know what? I can't give that loss to Haskins in that way, because they didn't even try to develop him. They had so much going on, obviously. You're going into this year with Ron Rivera and the quarterback coach that they got, the OC that they got. They've produced an MVP quarterback named Cam Newton. So, I think they know what they're doing. They bring a winning culture around the football team. The quarterback coach has produced many Hall of Famers that people don't realize. I think that Haskins is going to be a monster. Actually, he is my sleeper this year. He's my number 15 quarterback, and I think that just bodes well for Terry McLaurin. I think he's still going to do what he do. You look at the rapport that he already has with McLaurin. It's because they had it together in college the year prior. They got drafted on the same team. This is chicken dinner, man. This is barbecue chicken, man. Go get Terry McLaurin. I like him a lot.
Absolutely. What I like a lot about Terry McLaurin, he's a receiver that can do a lot in the short game and in the long game, period. Yeah. He's that dynamic of a player. You saw that he can still produce fantasy numbers without the big play.
Yeah.
That's the best part about Terry McLaurin, what I like especially. So drafting him as your wide receiver too, especially in like the 5th, 6th round where he's coming off, depending on your draft size, 4th round, 5th round. But if you paired him with a guy like DJ Chark, who we like also, with, you know what I mean? If you got DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, and you stack running backs early, these are viable receivers that could take you on.
Yeah, these guys that probably will finish at wide receiver 1, but that's their upside there. Wide receiver 2s with wide receiver 1 upside all day long, and you can get them 5th to 6th to, in certain cases for certain players, the 7th round. You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely. Receivers, there's so many to talk about. There's just a lot of deep ones, a lot of good ones. And there's some guys that have a lot of question marks. We talked about some already, but let's move to Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
So this is a guy last season, wide receiver 4, only receiver on the season to have 9 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He's dynamic, but they did lose their running back, Todd Gurley. Who knows what that backfield is going to look like? Bringing in Cam Akers as a rookie, we don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball effectively. That affects the passing game. 1, 2, they trade Brandon Cooks. That affects the outside game. So Cooper Kupp, yes, he is a great receiver, but
he's not a good outside receiver.
Yeah,
he's a good slot, great slot.
Yeah, and you saw in spots that he kind of fizzled out towards the back end of the season. Who picked it up? Robert Woods.
Yeah,
and so for me, I'm hard pressed to take Robert Woods ahead of Kupp, but they're almost like a 1-2 punch.
Yeah,
I could see them being paired right next to each other, finishing very similar numbers.
Yeah,
by the end of the season. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. From week 10 on, that dude, week 10 going, he had 95 yards, 97, 172, 98, 17, 117, 67.
And he also had crazy rushing yards, like 100 rushing yards.
Yeah, but I'm saying this is just in the last 7 weeks. I mean, his average was well over 100 plus yards a game. He's what, 3rd or 2nd on the target list?
Yeah, he was a top 5 receiver in the end of the season.
So I don't see any reason totally why that's just gonna fall off.
Yeah, stupid value. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and even now, some people are taking Robert Woods ahead of Cooper Kupp, which, like I said, in my opinion, they're kind of like the 1A and 1B. They're if we were ranking them, obviously they're very similar to each other.
Yeah, I gave Cooper Kupp a little bit of respect just because he finishes the number 4 wide receiver last year. I honestly have him ranked as my number 11 receiver. I got Odell ranked as my 10, AJ Brown, DK, like I just said, 12, 13. Then Allen Robinson, my 14, and my number 1 sleeper this year, my breakout this year, Hollywood Brown at 15.
Yeah, we could talk a little about Hollywood Brown. Let's go ahead and bring him out.
We already talked about him.
Of course, but
his game shows itself. You don't really have to talk about him.
Is the target share going to be there? I hope so.
Yeah.
He's a dynamic player. We already know. 10% touchdown rate. So we move to a little bit of the later rounds. You're looking at 6th, 7th, 8th round receivers, and there's still a lot of them on the board. We're passing up on a lot of guys. Calvin Ridley, a lot of people are high on him. I'm not sure if he's going to have the huge jump that he, has the potential to have. But
yeah, I don't think he jumps at all. I think he just stays the same player.
Yeah,
you know
of course.
What I'm saying? I think his potential,
which is a 15 to 20.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think his potential was more touchdowns. I don't think it's really going to necessarily be more targets or passing yards. Given you got Hayden Hurst there, you know what I'm saying. Then you got Todd Gurley is great catching the ball. So I just don't see a lot of love for Calvin Ridley in that light. He didn't seem to separate himself from the other receivers on that team last year, and then you seen Russell Gage emerge a little bit last year too. So, I just don't like him that much over other players. I honestly got Calvin Ridley, my 29 receiver on the board. Yeah, that's not a guy that I'm targeting early and often at all. I've been seeing him go quite early though. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand it, but hey, he I think his consistency will be there. You know what I'm saying? He did finish with 12 and a half fantasy points per game at half point last year. So, you know what I'm saying? The consistency will be there. I don't think there's any boom for him to actually just be more productive or be more of a beast, be in the top 10. I don't see that happening.
Well, he's obviously a number 2 receiver on his own team. That's my thing. the touchdown upside is there. He's at 17 touchdowns the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think
So-
he's a touchdown monster, but anything other than that, I don't see it.
Absolutely. Could he get to 1,000 yards? Yeah. Could he have 7, 8 touchdowns? Yeah. You know what I mean? Which put him right kind of where he's being drafted anyway. So
But skill set wise, I mean, you look at those receivers now, they're coming into their third year. Did he separate himself like Chris Godwin did? Does he have the skill set and the target share that DJ Chark did, which we're going to talk about next? No. I don't see it. You still have Julio Jones right there, who's probably going to get 1,400 fucking yards this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, no, I just don't have no love for Calvin Ridley. Now, going to DJ Chark, I had a lot of high hopes for DJ Chark. At one point, you know what I'm saying, I had him, I think, my number 13 receiver early on. Breaking news with the addition of losing Leonard Fournette and losing Ngakoue and everything like that. This team is going to suck like we pretty much planned. You know what I'm saying? I had hopes that maybe they wouldn't suck as much, but they're going to be terrible.
Players, so.
Well, that means that, his target share should be like ridiculous. There's going to be more negative game script. So they're going to throw the ball more, but we just don't know how good this team's going to be. You know what I'm saying? They could be like crazy good and not get touchdowns. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and is he going to take that step? In my opinion, I like a person that we can talk about next, Courtland Sutton, a little better.
Yeah, I do.
That third year.
I do think he could take it a step because they added a receiver in Laviska Shenault. I think he's going to garner a lot of attention early on. You know what I'm saying? Because he is dynamic and all those things. But, if you look at that offense, in the history of that offense, the number 2 receiver is the one that breaks out. And it always takes the second year for them to do it. So even if you go DJ Chark, Marquise Lee, you know what I'm saying? The list goes on. So, I like Shenault a lot. That's a guy that, in Dynasty, you might be wanting to look at the scoop up because the kid is a beast.
Definitely
honestly.
in Dynasty.
Yeah, and everything like that. But moving on to Courtland Sutton, I mean, what you think about Courtland Sutton?
My thing is last season, you already saw what he did, right? The production is there. And it was with arguably bad quarterback play. Drew Lock for the back end, 4-1, but you started the season with the guy from the Ravens. For some reason, I can't think of his name right now. That was who they started with.
Joe Flacco.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco. Anyway, started the season with him, and you saw what happened. And then, Drew Lock was hurt. They filled in with another quarterback or two, I would say, for a couple weeks, I want to say. But
Still 72 receptions for 1,100 plus yards.
yeah, absolutely. Huge year for Courtland Sutton. And I think with Drew Lock and them adding weapons on that offensive side to help maybe Courtland Sutton get a little free. You know what I mean? Because last season you saw there was really no clear wide receiver 2.
Yeah, that's what I was saying about DJ Chark. Shenault should free him up. I think Judy's going to free him up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I did like Locke a lot. He looked like a guy who can flourish in a Pat Shurmur offense. You know what I'm saying? They went to go get Melvin Gordon, so they're going to be a lot play action heavy, hitting slots, hitting the downfield thing. So you want Courtland Sutton to have that kind of thing out of SMU, who's built like Calvin Johnson, who can do almost the same kind of things. You know what I mean? So can he take a step up? Yes, he certainly can. It just completely depends on what Drew Lock is going to be. Throughout camp, we have also seen that Drew Lock's been hitting Sutton the most out of any receiver. You know what I'm saying? Sutton has had a really great camp, so I really like him as a undervalued player that you should be grabbing late. I wouldn't be mad if he was my wide receiver 2 at all.
I wouldn't either. And his ADP actually runs at right around the 50, 55, which will put you as the 4th, 5th round in 12-man. Obviously, in 10-man leagues, you're looking at 5th, 6th round. Huge value for Courtland Sutton, and he's going a lot later than some of these receivers.
So if you're planning on going like 2 to 3 running backs, Courtland Sutton is somebody I'm guaranteed looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about some players we don't really like. Devontae Parker.
Sucks.
Right. Now, last season you saw huge production. He really did. And his ADP's kind of been all over the place. I've seen him drafted high. I've seen him drafted late.
5th year breakout.
Absolutely. But he was very dynamic. You saw it last year. You can admit that.
Yeah.
Towards the back end of the season. And Fitzpatrick's been named the starter. I think he's named the starter anyway.
He should be the starter.
Absolutely. So
2 is trash.
If Fitzpatrick is a starter, there's no reason why you can't get at least 5-6 good weeks out of Devontae Parker before
I'll tell
they
you
switch
why.
over to the backup quarterback.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. Because he's going into camp right now already hurt again. So Preston Williams is already back playing. I think when Preston wasn't playing last year, he was the number 1 receiver on that team. He looked very fucking good. And to be honest with you, I want a lot of shares of Preston Williams over Devontae Parker, to be honest with you. I don't think Gesicki is a thing. I think Gesicki just sucks at football. And I think he's an athlete, but he's not very good.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying?
And they got him ranked so high, and I don't understand it.
Like, for real.
Yeah, he just sucks at football.
He does.
Well, his metrics are off the charts.
He shouldn't be playing it. I really don't think he should be playing it at all. Devontae Parker, going back to him, I think he could still be productive with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but can Ryan Fitzpatrick really produce 2 dope receivers? I'm not really so sure. He's from Harvard, so he's basically a scientist, but I'm sure he can make it work. But I don't like Devontae Parker going to the season with an injury, to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, for me, I would rather stay away and draft a guy like Preston Williams later in the rounds. You're getting
super late,
super value.
Almost undrafted.
Think about this. I saw a stat today through weeks 1 through 9. Guess who led the team in receptions and receiving yards? Preston Williams did.
That's what I'm saying. He was
not
the number 1
Devontae Parker.
receiver. Yeah.
So, Preston Williams, huge upside. Definitely a huge sleeper that you should be targeting late in your rounds, period. As an upside receiver that could finish in the 20, in my opinion.
I love him a lot.
He's got just dynamic metrics. He could be great.
I'd almost hug him.
But anyway, let's move to some receivers. There's one more receiver that obviously
there's one receiver that I just can't stand right now. I don't even like him at all. Keenan Allen, to me. You know what? This quarterback change is just like, I don't know what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? He runs a slot. I've never seen Tyrod really. Tyrod is not a bad quarterback. You know what I'm saying? If that's breaking news to anybody out there. He's always been pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Always got the seat ready for the rookie to come in.
Yep.
But,
gotta warm it up first.
He's a deep ball kind of guy. Throw the ball, deep ball. I don't know what kind of production that he can do, like, with Keenan Allen's skill set. You know what I'm saying? Keenan Allen runs, like, crazy routes. You know what I'm saying? Do they have that kind of rapport? I just don't know. I'm staying away from it in a lot of drafts. You know what I'm saying? Is Keenan Allen a great player? Yes, he is a great player. Probably one of the best route runners in the league. But does that mean he's going to get hit by Tyrod Taylor on a consistent basis? Like 12 targets, 14 targets a game, and he's just beasting like Phillip Rivers was hitting him? I don't know if he can do that.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
And this is another thing. Based on your league, how you're drafting, Keenan Allen, big name player. He's a guy that's probably going to be overdrafted in a lot of drafts.
Yeah.
So, not saying just fade him altogether, but if I was to draft him, I'm hard pressed to have him as a flex guy or in my starting
Just
lineup
know,
in general.
People, Phillip Rivers is not the quarterback anymore.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's
Right.
a new quarterback in the LA Chargers, and that's Tyrod Taylor. That's who's throwing Keenan Allen the ball. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's get to some sleepers, some late round guys that we think could produce. Okay, so first off, I'm going to bring up, we already talked about Preston Williams a little bit, but Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
This is a receiver that's ADP is 100, 110, 10th, 11th round value. Joining an offense in Deshaun Watson, right? Where 150 targets are vacated. Now, is Brandon Cooks going to get 150 targets? No. I don't think he needs that much. Could he? Yes. I think he's a type of receiver if he can stay healthy through 16 weeks. We already saw for the last 5 seasons, outside really of last season, was an RB 15 or better every single year.
Yeah.
So, what's to say that all of a sudden now he's ranked as the wide receiver 35?
I think that's more attributed to the concussions. He's one concussion probably from being out of the league, period. Probably just being out of Madden.
They said that about Jordan Reed, and he's now on the 49ers.
They did say that about Percy Harvin, or one of those guys too. Or what was it?
It wasn't Percy Harvin.
Percy Harvin just happened to have migraines
Yeah.
from CTE. But it was the other guy from Detroit. But anyway, moving along to Brandon Cooks. So there's 150 to 170 targets vacated from DeAndre Hopkins' departure. And, everybody is really high on Will Fuller right now, but I think that people are not understanding the skill set. I think that Will Fuller's a better down-the-field catcher. That's what he does. I've never really seen him do routes and, like those stop checks and all that kind of stuff. I think Brandon Cooks is that guy because he runs across the middle. but they did also add Randall Cobb to that mix. I think what you're going to see is a lot of separation being drawn by Brandon Cooks, and those targets get sprinkled all the way throughout the offense. They got David Johnson, you know what I'm saying? So I think that is just going to be spread. Those targets are going to be spread equally throughout the offense. You got a guy like Deshaun Watson, who's a killer. He's going to find these players and hit them in stride easily. Another player that they have on that team that everybody's forgetting is Kenny Stills, who's actually a killer.
Yeah, he's not bad.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of potential for Brandon Cooks. Yes, you know what I'm saying, as a sleeper, but you know I struggle with giving him a floor. That's all. You know what I'm saying? That's why I feel like he's a sleeper. I mean, otherwise, any other offenses that he's in, yeah, I'm drafting him like, you know what I'm saying, like very confidently, like probably like 5th round. But right now, I just don't know what kind of floor I can actually give him.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been eased into the offense in training camp, so we don't really know how electric he's going to be in the beginning. Don't get me wrong, to start the season, but he is the type of player that could finish inside the 15. And if you're getting him that late, it's a value. You know, plain and simple.
You know another guy who could finish like nice?
Who?
James Washington.
Okay, we can talk about Pittsburgh real quick.
His first year with Big Ben and what he produced last year, I think James Washington could possibly have a nice year.
Yeah. See, I like James Washington as well, but it scares me because Deontay Johnson is the guy over there. He looks nice. They're using him. They want to use him like they use AB. Now, I'm not saying that this guy's AB. Don't go out there and draft him board like he said AB. No, don't draft him as AB. But that's what they want to use him as, to free up the slot, to free up the catches from James Conner and everything like that. They added Ebron to that mix. They haven't had a valid tight end since Heath Miller. They tried to add Vance McDonald to the mix, but he couldn't stay healthy. So, you know, they want that short game there. But going back to James Washington, yeah, he did show some flashes there. But I think Deontay Johnson is probably the guy that they like more in the offense right now. And then they did add Claypool, who's basically Martavius Bryant, and it's obviously a big guy, real good speed. So, you know what I mean? I just don't know. Like I was saying about Roethlisberger's injury, are they going to give him that many chances to throw the ball this year? You know what I'm saying?
It's a free reign.
Yeah, but none of these guys have been established as a dope receiver yet, outside of Juju Smith-Schuster. So there could be a very well possibility that James White can be that guy.
I would just say look at Pittsburgh on your watch list, no matter what you do.
Yeah, of course. You don't know how Ben Roethlisberger is going to be healthy. So, last but not least, we'll get to just some dart throws. Late round guys, you're taking chances on. There's some rookies. Henry Ruggs is a huge upside guy for me. 12-man league especially, I'm drafting him guaranteed on my team in 12-man. 10-man, I don't know if you have a spot necessarily for him, depending on your makeup of your team. But Henry Ruggs, Bryan Edwards, same team.
The Raiders are going to be in a lot of shootouts. These receivers are dope as fuck. Go get them.
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, I like Jerry Jeudy.
Absolutely huge. CeeDee Lamb, I like a lot, but he's joining an offense with two guys who already weren't over 100 targets. You know what I mean? So
another player that I know Philly fans actually know, Jalen Reagor is hurt right now. So Deshaun Jackson should be on everybody's watch list right now. You know what I'm saying? This guy's going damn near undrafted, and you've seen the report that he had with Carson Wentz already, and he's the number one wide receiver on that team right now. I think a lot of people should be honestly, that's a very valuable stack if you faded the quarterback position altogether and went in later rounds and got Carson Wentz and Deshaun Jackson. You know what I'm saying? It'll be beast for your team.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are all upside guys that I would take even dart throws over, like a guy like Jamison Crowder, over a guy like Curtis Samuel.
Well, you know what I mean? Jamison Crowder I have trouble with because Darnold, he has to throw the ball to somebody.
He does.
They're going to be behind in every single game.
And Bashar Perryman?
Even in Madden.
Yeah. And Bashar Perryman already hurt it.
Yeah.
So, yes, I would take dart throws on guys this late in the rounds. I mean, even if you were drafting a Jamison Crowder, is he going to fill your bye week? Are you going to be okay with him filling your bye week?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I personally wouldn't. I would rather take a chance on some upside guys.
Another guy on a terrible team. They have a great running back, probably transcend the running back position this year. Sterling Shepard. He's been excellent in camp right now. He's the number one receiver on that team. They said bar none, he's been the best receiver. He's pulled away crazy, but he has never been stayed healthy. The whole receiving corps has never stayed healthy. I mean, outside of Golden Tate, which Golden Tate just got hurt. He's never been hurt in his career. So I like Sterling Shepard a lot. If you want to dart throw players, you know what I'm saying, with Daniel Jones.
Darius Slayton too in that same breath.
Yeah,
I
Darius.
would take a chance. He showed last year he was actually pretty solid.
Well, a lot of news around camp is that Sterling Shepard has taken a different kind of step, like a pro step.
Like he's killing their defensive backs.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And another guy I'm kind of looking at towards you. You forget Cam Newton has changed teams. I'm looking at Julian Edelman and also Neil Harry. Now you might say Neil Harry sucks or whatever like that, but the skill set that he has is the same skill set that Devin Funchess has. The same skill set that Kevin Benjamin had. You know what I'm saying? This guy could be a down the field red zone monster, touchdown monster for your team. Julian Edelman and Cam Newton has had a lot of rapport in this offseason, so look for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Edelman coming off the board in the 10th round was the number 10 wide receiver last year. So if you think about it, that's a spot where it's still a value in my opinion. I was going to bring up Edelman too. Some late round guys.
One more sleeper, Deebo Samuel. Now he's been hurt. He had the injury to his foot and everything like that. But a lot of news going around campus saying he may be ready for week 1. So I would just draft him and not necessarily in my starting lineup. I'll put him on my bench and wait to see what happens. But we seen what he did last year. This guy could run out of the backfield. He catches passes. He's dynamic. He just transcends his team on a different level. You know what I'm saying? Go get him if he's available in your late rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to bring up just a few quick wide receivers as we close today.
Yeah.
Ones we missed. Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Doesn't play a top 10 secondary this year. Should dominate. Draft Allen Robinson. Now, don't reach for him, but, if you can draft him.
Going to be a ton of air yards there. There's nobody else there.
Absolutely. So, another guy, Michael Gallup. Honestly, could overtake Amari Cooper, in my opinion, as the number 1 receiver on the team.
Yeah.
Possible. Touchdowns, I'm not so sure. Another guy, Stephon Diggs. I don't really like him necessarily, but he's a lot better than advertised as a wide receiver. But can he fit in that offense? We just don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not taking a chance on Diggs. I'm kind of fading him personally. Jarvis Landry, coming off the hip surgery. Is he healthy? Is he not? We don't know. Obviously, he's going to be peppered with targets in that offense, but they did add Austin Hooper in the offseason.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham should be fully healthy. Sports hernia surgery in the offseason. So
he's the guy that I'm not targeting at all. If he falls in my lap late, go get him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that should round out the wide receiver position for us. So, at the end of the day, these are guys we like, don't like, draft high, the value, all that stuff. So, first 4 downs. It's been B. Scott.
G.O.D.
Third whip.
We out, baby.
We out.